There is no they. It's a really good point. There's no. It's not Obama. I'll let you speak. I have a tangent on Obama. I
Ooh,
think this is the twilight. I want to write a piece about this too. But sometimes you speak it out, and then it helps cohere your thoughts. I do think this is like the Obama twilight in that
yeah,
his influence to me, he's one of the all-time great politicians and historic figure, and not taking that away. His political influence in the current moment is almost non-existent. His surrogate work meant nothing. I think the whole Obama, Biden, Clinton, the operatives they share, you pick a person, Pluff, Axelrod, Jen O'Malley, Dylan, who was running Beto's campaign and then was running Biden's campaign, then did
yeah.
Harris's, all these people, right? All of them. I think this has to be the twilight for all of them. They all their moment has passed. The Michelle Obama, great public speaker, probably could have ran for president once. She's never going to, but her moment too. They collectively have lost to Donald Trump, and so I think this is the to me. I'm not saying in the future Obama can't go out and campaign. To me, this feels like the end of something. It's the
Yeah.
end of the Obama sort of trying to think of the right word. It's not dominance because he's never dominated the party
Yeah.
like Trump dominates the
No,
GOP. There's some twilight here. There's something
there's
that has passed.
there's something weird about him where it's almost like he can't break through the noise in the culture at this point in the social media era, and it doesn't feel like it's a big deal when he's doing something. And if he does a podcast with Springsteen, nobody listens.
Right.
And
His ventures didn't, that's a good point. They didn't like take off, right? There's nothing he's done post president that has meant anything cultural.
now I think his convention speech was widely
It's
viewed.
good.
And
Yeah.
there's some
And Michelle's
firmware.
was too.
Yeah, there's some firmware in the millennial mind that gets highly activated by Obama. I think Obama's legacy now, it's twofold. I think it's the acceleration of the professional class in urban America, but the professional class towards the Democratic Party, and also the reason why a lot of millennial males are libs, for lack of a better word, or Democrat voters. I think that a lot of that has to do with Obama's rise at the time that it happened. As I've talked about in this podcast, we are seeing the opposite thing happen with Gen Z males. And it's something that I think a lot of millennial males, they don't even know what's happening under their generational feet. They don't even know. But I think that's part of it. Like Obama is still with us in a way because of the impact he made on generational cohorts. But I also agree with you that there's something about him right now that just doesn't seem to fit the current.
It's not connecting.
It's
like someone else will have to connect. He's not doing it. Yeah.
It's like he almost doesn't have a weird looseness that fits into the messiness of modern social media. He's of almost a different era, it seems. It's like he's a relic that people mostly look favorably upon, but he almost can't leave that place and arrive where we are. Maybe, and he might like this as a comparison, he's almost like Michael Jordan. He's somebody with a high approval rating who can't return to that moment of his absolute apogee because it's just impossible.
I think that's a perfect analogy. I think that's a great analogy. I think he's the Michael Jordan of politicians. I mean, as much as we're praising Trump's win on Tuesday, Obama 2008, I mean, he won Indiana. Like there are states he won that Democrats will never win again. And you look at it's like a different century. It's like 3 centuries ago. He is winning Iowa. I mean, he's flipping counties that are now like 70% for Trump.
His legacy is there, by the way.
Almost Colorado. 60 senators. Colorado is a Democratic state. The Affordable Care Act will not be repealed. So I think that is a legacy. The Republicans officially gave up on getting rid of Obamacare. They kind of accepted it in the firmament. But yeah, no, I think Jordan's like a perfect one down to the Bro Chicago guys. I mean, they're the greatest winners of their time, no doubt. Like the Bull dynasty to like Obama 2008 is a very good analogy. I mean, that is still the biggest win in a presidential race we may see in our lifetimes. I don't know if you'll ever see a candidate go up that high in the electoral college popular vote. and win and get their party to such a large majorities. And the Democrats were almost 60 senators. You won't see it again. But yes, like Jordan could not be a successful owner and just is not, you could speak to it much better than me, but yeah, very much exists as this legacy figure. Obama himself, he's the Michael Jordan of politicians. They'll probably never be like someone you say objectively is more was more talented in their time, right? Who was more dominant in their era than Obama. And the same thing with Michael Jordan. Jordan is still GOAT, and I think will forever be it. LeBron tried, but I think Jordan wins. And I think that's kind of the consensus.
They both evoke a powerful nostalgia in people.
Yes, very much so. Very much so.
And for people who are voters to the Democratic Party, or a lot of people in cities, they associate Obama with this positive pre-Trump time, and they like seeing him. But at the same time, it just doesn't seem like he can affect the terrain today. He changed things. He won. He's got a legacy. But it's just a fact, people. It just is what it is. Donald Trump is the most consequential politician, at least of my sentience. You could make counter arguments for our lifetimes. Somebody might say, well, Reagan, the Berlin Wall, you can get creative, but you could make an argument depending on whatever happens over the next 4 years that you might be in the territory. I sound like Bill Simmons right now. Is he on your Mount Rushmore of post FDR?
So I've been thinking about this. The Trump era I consider the Trump era to have begun with the golden escalator. That is June 2015. It will have ended, assuming that he isn't, doing something insane in 2028. It will have ended at the end of 2028. Let's assume that, right? That's a 13-year run, right? The only thing comparable I could think of, in terms of, both Nixon was in the public eye from the time of his vice presidency. He was vice president for 8 years, to then being out, to then running in 68, to then Watergate. That is like a 20-year period. Like Richard Nixon might be the only figure that came to mind immediately as someone who was in the public consciousness for a very long time. And people on the left would talk about Nixon like they talk about Trump today and would compare him to Hitler. I personally am actually quite sympathetic to Richard Nixon. I enjoy reading about him, and he's a fascinating figure historically. And I think he, in some ways, was terrible, but in other ways unfairly maligned. Well, but Nixon had that. Yeah, and Nixon had, I think, that longevity of where he was in the public eye for a very long time and just meant something to so many people, good or bad. Trump, I think it'll be 13 years when said and done. We'll say that's a long time. That's longer than Obama. That's certainly W. I mean, W is maybe consequential in the sense that he changed. I'd say W changed like the world and certain parts of America much more in terms of like the surveillance state. I do think the Patriot Act, plus the foreign policy, I would argue for the worse, changed the world to a greater degree. But I think, Trump more consequential than Obama. Yes, I think that's you can say that. I think that's. I'm not saying good or bad. But consequence. I think so.
I mean, he's completely remade. Nixon. It's hard to do these. It's hard to do these comparisons. Nixon almost is in some ways a proto-Trump figure in that he conceived of the silent majority and adopted a style of politics that we would see repeated later on. But Trump has just remade his party completely in a way that is shocking.
In a way, no one, I would say that's true. No politician in modern times has completely, maybe since FDR and the Democrats, has like completely just, FDR left like a 30-year legacy in the Democratic Party where people were running on the New Deal legacy into the 1970s. I think Trump and the GOP, that's right, that he so thoroughly dominates it in a way that one could never have imagined in 2015.